Hello and welcome to Re-enthused. Today we are taking a look at the MB Electronics Microvision. There we go. And this was one of the first machines with interchangeable games. It's a bit far to say cartridge, but we'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, this was released by the Milton company in 1979 and was discontinued in 1981. Now there's various things. I mean, there's no processor on board, but again, that's something we'll get to. And there's only 16 bytes of RAM, and the screen is a 16 by 16 pixel resolution. It's an interesting beast, that's for sure. So let's open it up straight away and take a look. So that's actually one of the games. And this is the machine itself, and there's a hint of the future of the video with one of the batteries. So this is the machine. It comes with a nice little leatherette case. And there we are. So yeah, it just looks like it's already been stripped down, but there's a reason that we'll get to in a minute. So yeah, this is the keypad, which has several like touch buttons on it. So there's just a small membrane underneath there. And there's the screen, again with its 16 by 16 pixel resolution, and underneath here some more of the gubbins hidden away. Now, the reason why this looks... Oh, I don't forget, sorry. I almost forgot this. This is the control knob. It's just a rotary dial. There we are. Now, the reason why it looks like this is because, in fact, the games were slightly more than just cartridges. So here's one of the games. This is the one that came with this one. And let's turn it so you can see it. There we go. And as you can see, that's literally the whole fascia of the machine. Now, there's actually... each of these games has its own processor on board. It depends on when the game was made, what processor it has. Like early games had Intel 8021 processors, and the later ones use the Texas Instruments TMS 1100. Lots of reasons why they changed: price, availability, and also power consumption. We'll get to that point. So this one, I'm unfortunately missing the battery cover on my one. So as you can see, there's two blocks there. They're not there for AA batteries, but they're not. They are for 9-volt PP9 style batteries. And this takes two of them because this is one of the early revision machines. The later revisions only had one. And there's, it was to kind of solve several problems. So the late machines, this bay looks pretty much, for most of those revisions, I think there's a couple where it's been changed, but to save on moulding costs, this bay looks identical. It's just that one of these PP battery compartments doesn't have its contacts in there. So it's just like a blank slot. And that's because there was a small electrical issue with these, where if you accidentally put one of the batteries in the wrong way, then it would overheat. And both batteries would start to overheat and potentially cause fires. So their way of solving that was literally just to remove the contacts. So because it was no longer needed. Right, now if we just stick, as I said, here's the keypad. It's got lots of potential buttons on them, and you'll see if we slot this in, so it slots in at the top. That is very much like a cartridge with an edge connector, and then it clips into place, and as you can see, these go over where those buttons were, and so each game has its own set of controls, and plus it adds like a little border around the screen, and some of them also add things onto the actual playboard to give it a little bit more life, kind of like a Vectrex cover. And as an interesting segue, this machine, one of the designers was Jay Smith, and you may or may not know that name, but basically he was also partly responsible for another entry into the games market that MB did, which was the Vectrex. He was one of the designers of the Vectrex. So yeah, the old overlay thing was a running success for him. Anyway, it's an interesting machine, it really is. It's not very powerful. Again, so one of the first machines with interchangeable games, handhelds that is, and it's quite a clever way of doing it. Now, it wasn't a flop. This is kind of marked down. A lot of sites put it down as failed on their failed consoles thing, but for its time, it's like the Cassette Vision, which is a machine I'll definitely cover. I've covered the Super Cassette Vision, but not the original one. A lot of people put that down as being a failed machine, but it really wasn't. It did it met the expectations that Epoch had for it, and in fact is considered a success overall. It's just that these were released in a time when games weren't a huge market. So the return on this is thought to be around $15 million, which is not a bad profit margin at all. So this was certainly not a failure. Now, it didn't go to more success and was discontinued after a few years for quite a few reasons. Primarily, the cartridges obviously were very expensive to produce because all the processor and stuff is inside them. There were no third parties really making games for this. I think a couple of contractors, but it really was MB pushing the game creation for this stuff. So with just MB making the games, that was even more expensive for them. And literally just the price and the screen size and everything, it was a bit of a hard sell. But I'd say again, given all those factors, it still did pretty well all in all. There were 12 games released, one unreleased. I can go through them, I guess. So Blockbuster, obviously, which came with it. Bowling, Connect 4, Pinball, Mindbuster, Shooting Star, Vegas Slots, Baseball, Sigil, Space Blitz, Cosmic Hunter, Super Blockbuster. And there's also Barrage, which, what was the unreleased game. Now, a few of those games have different names in other countries, but yeah, that's really the only change at all, because obviously there's some text, but not a huge amount, so yeah. Now, the biggest, I think possibly the biggest thing about this machine and its impact in the gaming world as a whole is that in an interview, Satoru Koda of Nintendo's Research and Development Team 1 called out the Microvision as being one of the inspirations for Nintendo's Game & Watch handhelds. Obviously, the other inspiration being Epoch's interest in that market as well. So that's really, that's really a cool call out, because Game & Watch now is pretty much a bit of a legend in the market and just how popular they were. And of course, it led to the Game Boy as well. So yeah, interesting stuff. Right. Let's show you some of the games. There's almost no point me showing games running, by the way. I'll try, but yeah, it's the screen 16 by 16 pixels and it's just black and white. So here's bowling. Each of the games obviously had these numbers on them, as you can see, which is always a sure sign that only one manufacturer is making stuff. But yeah, if you can see, this is bowling. They come in like these nice little felt-like plastic cases and cardboard boxes. They do feel quite a lot more like a toy than we'd see as a game now, which kind of, I guess, makes sense with MB being behind it. Yeah, you get like a little instruction leaflet, which is actually in colour, so that's, again, cool. And you can see bowling is one of the ones that has the printing on the screen. So you can see there that it marks out parts of the screen for use. And yeah, as you can see on the back, this huge block here, you've got the edge connector there, which is well protected. And underneath here is all the processor and what have you. These are apparently considered rare, Microvisions, and it's kind of shocking to me because when I found out about them a few years back, I literally just looked on eBay and I had the pick and choose between several of them, and they weren't that expensive. So I'd be amazed if they were actually rare and there just wasn't some kind of rareness bestowed upon them, so to speak. Yep, here's Shooting Star and here's Pinball. Again, they've got different ones. Shooting Star just has the surround, whereas Pinball actually has some bits on the screen. Okay, let's try to get some kind of image on this. So you really have to be careful looking at the actual diagram for the battery, because yeah, you do not want to get it around the wrong way. I've only got one battery. It will be enough to power it, just not entirely playable that way on these early machines. If you do get one, if you can get the newer machine, I do recommend that. They are just less annoying to use, basically. Right. We have our, the controls there's not very much. Effectively, you've got your dial, whatever the game gives you, and then an on-off switch at the side. So if we turn that on, there we go. We have screen. I will turn it around and we'll do a little jump cut. Right, well there you go. My camera will literally not zoom in any more than that, and oh yeah, okay, that's fine. It's moaning at us. And I don't think we get everything, so I think it expects the 2 batteries in there, but you can kind of get an idea of what the there you go. Actually, that is working, isn't it? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I guess it's probably dependent on what chip is being used. But anyway, yes, as you can see, this is basically Breakout. And yeah, the graphics are not much to write home about. So, I mean, there's literally no point. It's such a, yeah. Yeah, there's literally no point. There's not much to see. This is going to be featured in my upcoming book, the follow-up to Gaming in the Obscure. So, yeah, you know, I'll put some game footage on there. Again, the reason why I'm saying there's not much to see is because I had to get game footage for them. There really is not much to see. Anyway, this is the NB Electronics Microvision, and I haven't looked recently how hard they are to get. If they're easy enough to get, they're kind of interesting to own, just because I think they're wonderful little devices, and they genuinely do have a real impact on gaming history as well. Obviously, even without the Nintendo link, they just kind of exude history. They really do. You can kind of just see just the building blocks of handheld devices coming from this. It's a weird format, obviously, although the Game Boy definitely followed that format. Again, I imagine that's the inspiration that Onyapatto was talking about. But yeah, they're wonderful. If you can get one cheap enough, then I would recommend getting it. The chances are it will probably work or have very few problems, because the actual base unit itself isn't huge. There are some problems, actually. We'll get on to that one, because there are known issues with this. So they suffer really badly from ESD. So if you don't know ESD, that's basically static discharge problems. Your body obviously builds up a static charge if the conditions are right. And this, if you touch the components inside this, it really can break because of that. Modern components nowadays, they're pretty resilient to that, but older components, they can suffer, and this is absolutely one of those. Putting the battery in the wrong polarity, that's a definite thing. You've got to be really careful with that. And the keypad underneath here, it's a membrane and it does break. So that's quite hard to fix, and it may need cleaning and stuff as well. Because of the way it's built, it's quite hard to fix. But this one has no problems. This one works perfectly, and I've heard similar things from a lot of people that own the Microvision. They've never had to do anything to them. The games technically are more likely to break down, because that's where all the processor and everything is, and that's the stuff that is quite early on in processor usage, especially for mobile stuff. So there's a chance they might be broken down, but you know what? There's a lot of games out there. Anyway, yes, I mean, I love them. I love this machine. I know it's not a visual tour de force, but there's just something about it. It's just really interesting, and it's such a wonderful piece of history. And I personally think they're worth owning. And again, if you get them at a decent price, I do recommend getting one, because they are kind of wonderful. All right. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like. If you really enjoyed the video, please hit subscribe. If you didn't enjoy the video, or you have something else to say, then please leave it in the comments below. Oh, one thing, because occasionally, obviously, people put comments in about me getting stuff wrong. It happens. I do research, but sometimes the research is wrong, or I misinterpret something. Never worry about it. If you think I'm wrong, write it in the comments, by all means. You know, I'm learning at the same time in that case, and that's great. I've got no problem with being called out for being wrong about stuff, or even if you just don't agree with my opinion. Although if it is just an opinion thing, do remember that different people have different opinions. But yeah, by all means, if you see something you think is wrong in my videos, then you can by all means put it in the comments and call me out on it. Right, see you next time.